Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and the bull market support band update. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Today's episode is brought to you by the number 9. Let's go ahead and jump in. So Bitcoin now is trading at a very modest $46,880. And now we have another weekly close. Ergo, we have an update to the 20-week SMA, an update to the 21-week EMA, and the 8-week SMA. And these are all important milestones as we continue to navigate the current Bitcoin market cycle. Okay? Now, at the present time, the current valuations of these important moving averages, the 20-week SMA is coming in at a very modest 40,974. Okay, so right around 41K. Okay, right around 41K. It will, of course, depend on the exchange that you use, right around 41K. The 21-week EMA is coming in at around 43.8K or 43.9K. It will depend on the exchange you use. So, more or less, the bull market support band, as we know it, is ranging from approximately 41K up to almost 44K. So it's essentially a window of approximately $3,000 where we would hope to hold the line in the event of a continued pullback. Now, we were in fact able to hold the line above the 8-week moving average. This would be the most bullish path forward. Okay, this would be the most bullish path where we essentially hold the 8-week moving average like we did during the prior leg up. That would be the most bullish path forward. Now, you should note that we have opened below it, okay? And the way that's possible while closing above it is because the 8-week moving average is moving up relatively quickly. So the price we closed above it just yesterday was above the 8-week, but that same price this week would actually be below it. You should also note that last week we closed above the 8-week and we initially opened below it down here. We actually went down first and then we came back up to ultimately close above the 8-week moving average. So for now, technically speaking, and of course the best way to be correct is technically correct, technically speaking, the 8-week moving average did hold as support. Now, is the 8-week, is it a possible path to 100K? It is a possible path, okay? And I think we need to be completely aware that this could pan out in this very bullish scenario. I think what would be a little bit more ideal would be a longer test of the 20-week moving average, okay? Now, I don't always get what I want. We know that for a fact, right? We know that for a fact. Ben does not always get what he wants. But testing the 20-week moving average for more than just a couple of wicks is normally a good thing. And at this point, it's not like it's that far away, right? I mean, it's not like the pain to get there is really that much to get to the 20-week SMA, the 21-week EMA. They're not even that far below us. I mean, the 21-week EMA is only, what, like $3,000 below the current prices? I mean, we could wake up tomorrow and we could be at the 21-week EMA. So we're not that far below the bull market support band at the current time. So, of course, we would want to talk about, the implications of if we do test these levels. Remember, those are the levels we want to hold as support, the 20-week SMA or the 21-week EMA. And if we go to those levels this week, then those again are the lines in the sand that we would like to stay above. Now, if we go below them, there's always a possibility we go below them, but as long as we close above them by the end of the week, then we know that the market can rebound relatively quickly. Okay, so let's recap. The most bullish scenario is Bitcoin holds the 8-week for the next several weeks. So it's the most bullish scenario. A more, let's say, reasonable scenario, and I'm not saying we can't hold the 8-week, it's just very bullish, and I like to be a little bit more conservative with my expectations, and then just be pleasantly surprised if it outperforms those expectations. If we go into it saying it has to hold the 8-week moving average, and then we just come back down to the 20-week, then it might hinder your expectation, or temper with your expectations, and probably not have you in the right mindset in the event of a test, because then you might be somewhat disgruntled that it didn't hold the 8-week. So always be conservative with where you see the market headed. Be pleasantly surprised if it outperforms what you think. That's the best way I find to navigate crypto. So if it does dip down to the 20-week SMA, we should note that the 20-week SMA is still technically in a downtrend. And it's probably going to stay in a downtrend for a couple more weeks. Okay, if you go back 20 weeks, we're still replacing these valuations up here with ones that are below it. So we're going to have, we'll continue to see the 20-week moving average move down for a couple more weeks. And at least this move over this last week back up to the upside by approximately 2.6% has bought us some time. And as long as we can stay above these levels for a couple more weeks, we'll actually see the 20-week start to flatten out here. And it'll probably flatten out, you know, at around 40K or so. I mean, you know, if we're being completely honest, looking at the data right now, the 20-week estimate is at 41K. It's dropping by about $500 per week. So next week, assuming we close at around the same prices, it'll probably be around 40.5K. The following week, it'll be around 40K. And so that'll be the area in which we would like to hold the line. Now, with all that said, one of the things we need to talk about, we're going to do an update because we talked about this the other day, and I just want to show you guys where, how this could pan out in the event of the bearish scenario in the short term. Okay, in the short term. So remember, the whole idea is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in the event of the short-term bearish scenario, what happens if we drop back down to where we dropped before? All right, so let's just take a quick look at this and see where it would put us. Well, in that scenario, if we actually continue to see this play out, then it would have us going all the way back down to around 38K or so. I mean, if we go to say the daily closes here and whatnot and put these at these daily closes over here, it would actually put us at around 38, somewhere between 38 to 39K. So then it begs the question, well, if we go back to those levels, is it possible to hold the 20-week, right? Is it possible? Well, I think it is possible. And you might say, well, technically speaking, and you always talk about being technically correct, right? Technically speaking, 38, 39K is below the 20-week moving average. And you'd be right. But if that were to play out and we went to those levels, you should note that we had wicks to those levels, but they were not actually weekly closes at those levels. So even if Bitcoin wicked down to those levels in the event that it, this pattern over here, like if this were to play out, and I'm just gonna overlay it again so that you guys can see it. So if this were to play out, I guess I'll have to shrink it. Let's just try to line it up as best we can. So we'll shift this up. Something like that, right? So if this were to play out, then we could still hold the 20-week as long as we close the week above 40K or 41K, whatever the 20-week ends up being at the time, okay? Now, this 38K level is an interesting level. For instance, if we go look at it over here, let's remove this one. 38K is actually the top of these weekly closes. And if we draw a rectangle to encompass that as well as, say, the top of these weekly closes here, you can see that that might be the area, in the event. Basically, we're just saying if this plays out, So if it say comes down into this level down here, but ultimately is able to hold the 20-week as support, one manner in which that could play out is if we say come down here, do something like this, and then maybe we have some wicks down to these levels, but as long as we don't have weekly closes and the 20-week kind of somewhere over here, then we're still theoretically okay, right? We'd still theoretically be okay in that situation. And this would be such a long move by the 20-week moving average, right? Something that looks like this, okay? And I drew it going up a little bit too quickly there, but you can see the 20 weeks moving down. So it'll start to level out probably at around 40K, and then we'll hopefully start moving up. So in this scenario, which would be the scenario where the 8-week moving average does not hold as support. So again, if the 8-week does not hold as support, if then statements are how navigate crypto. So if the 8-week doesn't hold as support and we come down these levels, and then this pattern over here plays out, then that would be the area, the line in the sand to watch. And you can maybe even get some wicks over here. As long as we are closing above the 20-week, then we're still fine, right? We should still be fine. So that might be the area, the region to look out for. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, a lot of people wouldn't like this to play out because they want to see it just rocket off immediately. And hey, if it holds the 8-week, you could be right. You could be right. But again, plan conservatively and be pleasantly surprised if you're wrong. That's the best way to navigate crypto. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. And we covered, you know, we covered our bases this week. We said, all right, let's close above the 8-week. That's the most bullish thing we can do. We closed above it, okay? This we said the weekend watch, right? Your watch is over, my friends. We closed above the 8-week moving average, so we can rest for a little bit and see, okay, can we hold it for another week? And if not, that's where the bull market support band comes into play. I also did mention that this week's episode was brought to you by the number 9, okay? And I've shown this before on the channel. I want to show it again. It's a neat little mathematical exercise, and there's actually a proof. Maybe if there's enough interest, we'll show the proof in a future video. But I wanted to show you guys how, and let me switch this over to a daily time frame so the lines on these charts show up a little bit better. I wanted to show you guys how 0.999 repeating forever is in fact identical to 1. And you're probably like, what in the hell is this guy smoking? It's not the same thing as 1. It rounds to 1 maybe, but it's not the same thing as 1. Well, actually, there's a mathematical proof showing that it is in fact equal to 1. And again, if there's enough interest, maybe I'll show it in a future video, but I tend to think that people don't care so much about that stuff. There's actually another way we can show it, a little bit more intuitive way, and I'll show you that today. Okay, I'll show you that right now. So the thinking is we know that 1 over 9, if you put this in your calculator, is 0.111 repeating forever, okay? You'll just keep getting 1s, that'll just go on forever. And then 2 over 9 is 0.222 repeating forever. Makes sense? Therefore, it stands to reason that 9 over 9 is 0.999 repeating forever. But wait a second. 9 over 9, that's just 1. So 1 is equal to 0.999 repeating forever. And again, if there's enough interest, I can show the mathematical proof. If you don't believe me, you know, you can also look it up on the internet, and you'll find plenty of proof yourself that they are in fact identical. My undergrad was actually in mathematics. Grad school was in engineering, but my undergrad was actually in pure mathematics, where these proofs are what we did. This is how, in fact, I spent my life. And in fact, that was when I got interested in Bitcoin. In 2011, I took a cryptography class in undergrad. And that was when we didn't learn about Bitcoin in that class, but just my natural, you know, curiosity about cryptography and stuff back then. You know, if you searched about it, whatnot, it wasn't that hard to come across Bitcoin, because that again there was some interest at the time. Now, unfortunately, I was a poor college student at the time, so it's not like I had money just laying around to throw into Bitcoin back then. But that was when I was first introduced to Bitcoin. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and I hope you enjoyed this week's video that again was brought to you by the number 9. We do have the premium list at intothe-cryptoverse.com. You guys can check that out in the description below. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, click the bell icon to turn on notifications, and I will see you next time. Bye.